Doctor Who will soon be returning to our screens, with Jodie Whittaker taking over as the 13th Doctor. The casting of a female Doctor is probably the single biggest thing to happen to the show since the first regeneration, way back in 1966. So, what better time to look back at each of the Doctor's eras so far? Join me for the trip of a lifetime as I recap the very best of each era, revealing some of my favourite Doctor episodes and moments along the way. The third Doctor's era is significantly different to the two that preceded it. It gave us the Doctor that was more of a dashing action hero than his predecessors, whilst retaining that same gravitas. The Doctor's exile to Earth meant that, to begin with, all stories were completely Earthbound. He often enlisted the help of units, headed by Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, in order to defeat the Monster of the Week. Though in a move away from the Troughton era, the threats he faced were sometimes human in nature, as well as alien. The Earthbound setting was both a blessing and a curse for the show, in my opinion. It allowed for stories that were more action-based, and it also had the advantage of using lots of real Earth locations, making stories both cheaper to film and more realistic for the viewer. However, as put by writer Malcolm Hulke, it also meant that stories were limited broadly into two categories, either mad scientist or alien invasion. Gradually, the third Doctor was allowed more freedom though, having the occasional trip to another planet on behalf of the Time Lords, and eventually regaining full control of his TARDIS. One such mad scientist faced by the Doctor in this era was the Master, though equally you could class him as an alien invader too. Conceived as the Moriarty to the Doctor's Sherlock Holmes, the Master became a recurring character in the third Doctor's middle seasons, appearing in every serial of Season 8. Roger Delgado's performance is skillful and nuanced, and his chemistry with Jon Pertwee makes the complex relationship between the Doctor and the Master all the more believable. It's such a shame that his time in the role was cut short by a car accident in 1973. Indeed, Delgado was set to appear as the Master one last time for the third Doctor's swansong story. But alas, it was not to be. The chemistry between the recurring characters is one of my favourite things about this era. Season 8 is a peak point, with the unit family of the third Doctor, Jo, the Brigadier, Benton and Yates appearing in practically every story. These characters all have different roles to play in defeating the threat. The Doctor with the scientific knowledge as unit's scientific advisor, Jo as the slightly dim but bubbly companion, and the Brigadier and his troops providing military support. There's a great sense of family and camaraderie between them, both on and off screen, that makes their stories very believable and a joy to watch. It's one of the main reasons why I love this era so much. A story from the expanded media that I think encapsulates the third Doctor's era brilliantly is the Heralds of Destruction from Titan Comics. It sees the whole unit family, plus the Master, working together to defeat a common threat, in the form of a familiar face from the second Doctor's era. Everything about this comic evokes the Pertwee era, and I definitely recommend it to any other third Doctor fans out there. I've seen practically all the third Doctor's stories, so which are my favourites? Spearhead from space. Doctor Who in glorious colour for the first time. Spearhead is a brilliant story that follows the third Doctor as he adapts to life on Earth, following his regeneration and exile. It acts as a sort of soft reboot for the show, so it's perfect for new viewers. Plus, it sees the first appearance of the terrifying Autons, arguably their most terrifying in this story. The Ambassadors of Death, a hugely underrated story in my opinion. I love how the plot revolves around space probes and rockets, reflecting real-world developments from the Apollo program. It's a Bond-esque thriller, with some brilliant villains and action sequences. The Sea Devils. There's so much about this story that I love. The island setting gives it an epic feel, and the sequences of sea devils emerging from the depths is executed brilliantly. Roger Delgado is on top form as the Master too, and it's the first time we see the character incarcerated in a prison, many years before he would eventually be imprisoned in the Vault as Missy. Frontier in space. The first half of an epic story that continues into Planet of the Daleks, though in my opinion this is the better half. There's some very believable interplay between human and draconian forces on the brink of war, some superb model work, and one last appearance from Roger Delgado's indomitable Master. The Time Warrior. A story that redefines the meaning of the historical serial, combining futuristic elements with a historical setting for the first time, in this case a medieval setting. As well as being Sarah Jane Smith's first story, it also sees the first appearance of a Sontaran. The Sontaran makeup is especially good in this story, probably the best it is in the whole of the classic series. For my favourite Third Doctor moment, I've picked some words of wisdom the Doctor gives the Thals in Planet of the Daleks. There's a speech she gives in Part 2 that I think embodies some of Doctor Who's core values. It goes along the lines of this: courage isn't just a matter of not being frightened, you know. It's being afraid and doing what you have to do anyway. There's also a really nice moment at the end of the story in which the Doctor urges the Thals not to glamorise or relish in the idea of war. I'm a sucker for a good Doctor speech, and these two are definitely some of the Third Doctor's best. What do you love about the Third Doctor's era? Post your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to join me next week as I look back at the Fourth Doctor's era.